Pastors Roundtable on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. Pastors Bear Morton, Christopher Folkerts, and Andy Dagenal joining us. It is 69. It is 9:43. Bill Colley, too, handling questions, comments as they come in. I was sharing with the three of you something I saw from Todd Starnes yesterday. And he says, among other things, football players are not allowed to attend indoor church services that allow attendance above 25% capacity. Any Christian athletes caught violating the policy could face fines. They could also have future guarantees in their contracts voided. On the other hand, they are encouraged to attend Black Lives Matter protests. How can you tell somebody they can't worship? I realize an employer is doing this. Government cannot technically do it according to the Constitution. But it seems to me that somebody might have a strong objection here and a good argument.
Yeah. You take our tongue a little bit there. It's just utter foolishness. That's a clear mark against somebody who, faith is inherent in who we are. We have been created as image bearers of God. And you talk about government not doing that. I mean, you look at the state of California, they're doing that. And so it's one of those things where, you got states who are trying to do that as well. And so, it's unfortunate. That's just a hypocritical statement where you can say you can go to a protest, but you can't go. What the NFL doesn't understand is that when an NFL player goes, and if he sits underneath biblical preaching, he's going to be a better employee for the NFL. He's going to be concerned about others. He's going to be concerned about how he conducts himself. He's going to be one of those things where he desires to honor Christ the King. And so it's just one of those things where it's just that this is where society's gone. It's turned upside down, and now evil is called righteous, and righteous is called evil.
I'm not really sure why they're so worried about it anyway. I mean, they keep their players pretty busy on the Lord's Day anyhow, so I'm not really sure why that's an issue. But clearly, anyone who says that the church in America is not being persecuted has their head in the sand. I mean, the statement so very clearly, this is not about COVID, this is about don't go to church. You can go to a Black Lives Matter, you can go to any sort of protest, you can go to the mall, you can go to Walmart, whatever, we don't care. If you happen to contract COVID there, no big deal. You go to church and you contract COVID, we're going to cut you. Come on.
Yeah, no comment.
Well, I think about this when I have over the last several years, and I haven't had to apply for a job in a long time, but over the last 10, 15 years, I know that usually you're asked in the questionnaire when you're filling out all the paperwork, they ask you, are there any particular days because of faith reasons you would not be able to work? So they can honor that. They almost feel bound to do it. Maybe they're bound legally. So I don't know how all of a sudden with COVID-19 this changes, because it'd be like my employer telling me if you go to church and you come in with COVID on Monday morning, you're done. I just don't think that would be a picture that this company would want us to portray.
It is bizarre. It seems like the NFL has chosen the wrong side of the issue on a number of these things, getting back to Colin Kaepernick and the whole kneeling thing. I mean, that really hurt them. It hurt their viewership, and it seems like here again they're on the wrong side of the issue. And I don't know. We frustrated how politics has been drug into all of life, and there's a sense in which the secular world is also, mired religion and drawn religion into all of it, instead of just letting people exercise personal responsibility, worship where they want to worship, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, exercise that personal responsibility. And it's part of just the socializing of our government, is that we're going to be a nanny state. We're going to take care of you, tell you what you can do, can't do. And that's kind of what I see going on here with the NFL, is we're going to police your private life. We're going to police your spiritual life. And that's unfortunate. And
well, Tim Tebow had a video the other day that was pulled down or briefly suspended because he was saying that there was a message to his fellow Christians, and he was basically saying, hey, this might make us all stronger in the long run. It got flagged as being controversial and was temporarily taken down.
Well, of course it's controversial, because the cross is a stumbling block to the Jew and foolishness to the Greek. Yeah. At the end of the day, do you want to play football, or do you want to be a slave of Christ? And that's really a very, just a tiny, we look at that as, this great persecution. And yeah, it is, but heaven forbid that you go find meaningful employment that you can actually carry on into your 50s and 60s. Heaven forbid that you actually be hands and feet, active members of a body of Christ, This might be the best thing that ever happened to these Christian athletes because they have to choose between playing a game and actually being a Christian, being a part of and a member of and a portion of Christ's bride. This could be great. This could be fantastic.
Yeah, I
Well,
think on a positive side, I think there was a pitcher. I don't know if it was for the Giants or somebody
yeah.
who took a stand and says, you know what, I only kneel for Jesus,
Amen.
and he was the only one on his team when they took that. You know, being a high school official, when this whole kneeling thing happened, I went to my commissioner. I said, listen, I am not going to officiate a football game if this politics comes to the high school level, and we got players who are kneeling and coaches are kneeling, I'm walking off the field. And I appreciate his response. He goes, I expect you to, Bear.
Mm.
And so I appreciate that whole idea that, listen, if you have differing views than I, that's fine. Let's go play the football game, and you can go do your thing, and I can do my thing afterwards. And so if we're playing a game, we're there for the kids to help them play a football game. But, man, we'll be challenged by that somewhere, somehow. We live in a conservative area. On the flip side, I think there's coming where some yo-yo is going to think that this is a good thing to do. Well, from my perspective, we're going to at least have one less referee. They might have more.
John MacArthur's name has come up a lot in the last week. Bear, you had a post about this on Facebook last week, and then I know that Pastor Paul Thompson has sent out some more details about it. And then I read this week where Eric Erickson was writing, and he was saying that what's interesting is Pastor MacArthur did not say anything about the First Amendment. He just said, I answer to a higher power than government or Gavin Newsom. I answer to God. And doesn't appear that he's faced any blowback yet from that.
Well, he's faced a little bit. I mean, that Sunday, the power company threatened to turn off all of his power, and I don't think that ever happened. We did find out this week that they have a coffee shop. They have a seminary on campus there, and they got a lot of movement going on through the day. They have a library there. And so they have this coffee shop outside in an educational wing, and they came in and shut them down and says that you don't have the proper hot water. Now, any genius knows that, when you put water in a coffee, the coffee machine heats the water. and so it's one of those things where, so there's a little bit of pushback in all this. And those are minor things in comparison to what he's doing. I appreciate MacArthur's stance.
Amen.
He tried to do what was best, and now that it's dragged on, it's very clear that this is an agenda by the governor of California. He pretty much told his people, listen, Christ is king, not Caesar. So it's one of those things where I appreciate, he did mention the First Amendment right in a fuller statement with his elders, but his main motivation is the understanding that now, listen, they're out to get us as Christians, and we need to take a stand and live for Christ, no matter the cost.
And really, the positions of John MacArthur and his elders there at Grace Community Church in California is really kind of what we've been talking about for a while. Yes, Christ is king. His church is his church. He calls the shots, and frankly, the government has absolutely no say in the matter as far as when, where, how, why the Church of Jesus Christ meets. And so it was very encouraging to see them come to that conclusion and actually put teeth into their convictions. And what a testimony to the rest of the world who is watching. We can see faithfulness on display. This is exactly the sort of thing that we've been talking about this whole time. You talk about, well, what if prosperity just doesn't happen to the church? What if giving is down? What if people leave? What if the government decides that you shouldn't meet anymore? Well, clearly we're in sin. I would say, on the contrary, clearly we're doing something right.
For me, I still have questions about it because, and I think, and we can respectfully disagree. So I was reading MacArthur's statement, but we also know that, we might think he's targeting churches, but he's not allowing the sports arenas to open up again. So they've come underneath that same umbrella, and churches can still worship as long as they worship with the 6 feet distance and wearing masks. So we have churches in our denomination that are still worshiping. So,
But
and
here's the pushback against that a little bit, Christopher.
Yeah,
Is the
sure.
whole idea, Planned Parenthood is an essential
Right.
business. Alcohol, the marijuana are essential.
right,
What Gavin Newsom doesn't understand is that when you have a a Christian going, somebody, I mean, he's going to have good citizens.
Right.
And so he's stripping that all away. And so I think as much as he still wants to control that.
Right.
That's what concerns me.
Right. I understand the essential, non-essential argument, and churches are essential for many reasons. Uh, but we speak about sphere sovereignty, that we have three institutions in the world we live in. We have the family, the church, and the state, and they rule themselves. So I don't have authority in the legislature. The legislature doesn't have authority in my house, vice versa, or in the church, right? But these spheres do intersect at certain points where, for example, public health and safety pertain. So, for example, um, I would say probably Grace Community Church has fire extinguishers throughout their building. That they have allowed the state to mandate certain things for public safety. They have, if they prepare food, there are food regulation laws in the state of California that they would abide by, no doubt. They probably have your hair has to be netted. You have to have certain protocols for handling food. They allow the state where these things intersect to legislate various laws for public health and safety. So the state has not banned worship. It's banned worship in these circumstances. So you can still worship outside, whereas they're not doing that for the NFL. They're not doing that for any other national sports league. But churches can still worship. So I guess I'm saying, um, I hear the persecution thing. I'm not persuaded of it yet, because churches are still worshiping. They're still being able to. So we have churches they're still worshiping every Sunday. They're outside. They're under tents. They're in parking lots. So if this was you may not worship, then we have an Acts 5 issue where we must obey God rather than man. But I don't see that yet.
Well, there's a couple of. I'm sorry to cut you off there, Bear.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Again, there's kind of apples and oranges thing going over here. The idea of having a building up to code and serving food up to code has nothing whatsoever to do with worship. And also, these are laws that have gone through the legislature. They're actual laws. They're not some sort of tyrannical fiat from a spoiled child, which is exactly what these decrees that have gone out, everything regarding COVID, none of it is law. All of it is just sort of some sort of fiat from a governor. None of it is actual law. This has the exact same authority as a police officer coming into your home and demanding to search it without a warrant. Simply because he wears a badge and a uniform does not give him any sort of right to search your home without the proper documentation given him by a judge. And so there's absolutely zero obligation for the Christian to obey this. This is not a law. This is just people who think that they have power trying to exercise power that they don't actually have. But then we also have to consider something. Bowing to actual laws that tell us how we can distribute food or how we can have a building that is safe is a very, very far cry from bowing to how we are to worship. And that's exactly what Governor Nostrum is doing, what governors really all over the place are doing, is actually dictating, okay, church, you can worship, but you have to worship in this way. And
You can't sing.
You can't sing. You have to keep 6 feet apart. You have to cut the attendance at a certain level.
Can't have funerals. You can't have weddings. You can't function as a church. And I think MacArthur's deal was that, listen, I got saints dying, and I can't even go hold their hand and pray with them before their last breath.
Mhm.
And so it's stripping away all that the church is to be. And I mean, I think his ultimate goal, Newsom's, would be, because we're not there just yet, but to eliminate the church. And he's having the power to do that, to say, because of this, because of this fear, because of whatever. And so, yeah, I think it's a huge issue. I'm sorry to cut you.
No,
back.
you're fine. I'm very
Keep
thankful
on going,
for
Andy.
you. And the other idea is, does motivation really matter more than the action? And what I mean by that is, like, okay, I could care less whether the collective governors of these United States, if their actual intention is to drive the church underground, I don't really care so much about their motivation so much as what they're actually doing. Because that's what Governor Nostrum is doing in California. Whether or not that's his intention, whether he's just wakes up in the morning just like, how can I persecute the church today? I don't think that's actually going through his mind. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But his actions are leading in that exact direction. So, how much is motivation? Is it persecution only if that's the motivation? I don't think so.
We got to wrap it up. And all of a sudden the phones took off. Wanted to thank our pastors today. Pastors Andy Dagenall, Bear Morton, and Christopher Folkerts. I haven't had to talk, so my voice is worn out. Isn't that funny? We're at 73. You got to use it or lose it, I guess. 73. It's 9:59. News coming up next, plus the Rush Limbaugh program. And God willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be back here tomorrow morning between 6 and 10 a.m.